Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. Today, my guest is Kristina Mänd-Lakhiani, the co founder of Mind Valley. This global school delivers transformational education for anyone strong enough to find their path. Kristina is a successful entrepreneur, speaker, artist, and philanthropist. She also considers herself to be an everyday philosopher. Today, Kristina is here to share something that can help you change your perspective and your life, the hack to happiness. To achieve true happiness, Kristina knows you need to start with self-love and acceptance of yourself. Kristina travels the globe educating people on how to be a happier version of their current selves. It's going to be a great conversation today. Kristina, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me. And yes, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so I was telling you in a pre-call, I did a little bit of cyber sleuthing on you, and you are extremely prolific, right? You do all these talks, you have all this great content on your website, and it just seems that I, that you are doing so much good in the world. So, could you please take a minute and just tell us who you are and what makes you so awesome?
Thank you. That's such a unexpected question, to be honest. I consider myself a writer more than anything, writer, author, and as you said, everyday life philosopher. And it's been a long path. I started as a in government service. Then I went into business. I did marketing. I did a lot of things, but it was when I hit 40, and I guess I had a midlife crisis when I started asking questions and wondering, am I truly happy and satisfied with my life? And well, I did the only thing that a reasonable person would do. I grabbed a sledgehammer and destroyed everything I had built until 40 and decided to rediscover myself. And that's how I ended up becoming an author and a writer. I'm still an entrepreneur. I still do a lot of things I used to do before. So it's not like completely a heel turn. But I can't really answer the question, what makes me awesome? But I believe that self-acceptance is the thing that makes you feel awesome about yourself. It's not really about how the world feels about you, it's how you feel about yourself. And yeah, it's been my path, and it's been a long path actually, and not a very smooth one to finally come to peace with what I was, with all my dents and scratches, dragons, flaws, and imperfections. So that's a short answer. I do not know how long you want the answer.
No, that's great. So, I think what's really interesting about your trajectory is that
Hmm.
you are embracing you are embracing the bumps in the road. You are embracing the imperfections. You're embracing, like these things that actually, you know, it, it just really humanizes us now. It just
Hmm.
really makes it so, yes, like I've done all these great things, been relatively successful, things like that. But then it's like, well, yeah, I've had sucky things happen in my life too. Right. And, you got to get over them and and you got to figure out. And I have to imagine, there, at some point there's a fair bit of imposter syndrome going on, or
Hmm.
there's, where you're looking at yourself and it's like, wait a second, why am I being showered with all this praise when like I don't feel it myself, right? Or
Hmm. Hmm.
it's like, who am I to educate all these other people? How do you get
It's an interesting question. I don't think that I had a very classical imposter syndrome. Actually, it is an imposter syndrome. I have shared stage with some of the best speakers in the world because I'm the co-founder of one of the leading educating platforms in personal growth and transformation. So obviously, we've had some of the best speakers on stage, and I had to share that stage with them. And I know that when I was starting as an author, I did have the feeling, who am I to go on stage? So it is, in a way, an imposter syndrome, although I do think that it had some nuances which were typical to me. And since I have been in industry for such a long time, then obviously I know what it means to be a great speaker, and I know the tips and the tricks, and I've learned from some of the best in the industry. But I'm also a very obstinate person, and I really love to be myself, and I'm very, very bad with pretending. So I call myself pathologically honest. And that has been, I guess, the biggest struggle to not just answer the question, who am I to be here on stage? Who am I to teach people? But to actually find the courage to do it the way I feel is the right thing to do, and not to go copying other people out there. And as I said, I've learned from some of the best speakers, but I also think that world doesn't need another replica of those good, great authors that are out there. So my best value is actually in being myself and giving something which, which I have learned in my experience, or which I have come to by doing my research, my studies, my work. And that was the harder part, because I know, as I said, I'd taken classes of, for example, public speaking. But when I go on stage, while I know the rules, I still quite consciously choose to be obstinate and break them. So depending on the message, sometimes people don't understand how can I do that. But the truth is that I think there is something which we are sometimes forgetting about ourselves. Our truest value is in our unique experience. And I think that it is it is not your perfection that a world needs. If everyone was perfect, it would be such a dreary world to live in. It is exactly your journey with your bumps, as you said, with your falls, with your lessons, with you learning how to get over that makes you valuable. And that means also finding courage to be yourself.
You know what's interesting about this is that, like you said, getting on the stage with all of these world class speakers and authors and all that, it can be intimidating, right? And one of the things I found, especially like through this podcast, I also had that that fear, like, oh my god, like, why is this millionaire talking to me, or why is this CEO of this $100 million company, why are they talking to me, right? And at some point you're just like, something, their blood is just as red as mine.
Mm,
They probably have the same struggles. And like when you're looking at their success, you don't necessarily see the 20 years they put in order to be there, right?
mm,
What happens is, um it's not really a front, but it is also a conscious choice, to get up on stage and present this best version, this best iconic, version of yourself, and not be this, well, I'm just going to go back to my cave right now, and and I think what happens is that, like when you realize that Gary Vee at one point, for example, had one follower. There was one point that where you only had one follower, right?
yeah.
And everyone starts at that point, right? Everybody.
You know,
So
I'm not particularly starstruck by people, because I've seen quite a lot of great speakers. I guess the question is more, do I have the value to give? And you just mentioned this question, who am I to interview someone like that? And I think this has been one lesson that I've learned. You can never doubt yourself, especially when you have to perform. You can doubt yourself in private, but when you go out, like in my case, when I go out on stage, the moment I allow the doubt to come in, I usually don't perform as well. So I'm very conscious to push that thought away for that moment, because it is literally, our opinion about ourselves is like, it's like a veil. Whatever you think of you, that's how the world is going to perceive you, and we don't often understand that. So it is incredibly important to actually believe in yourself first.
well,
And
what happens in that case? You get out, like you're behind that curtain, you're ready
yeah.
to go out, and then that self doubt starts drilling into your head. What do you do?
I actually just go through that as it happens, and we just had a huge event here in Estonia, 3 weeks. I spoke a few times, and the first time I was going on stage, I had the doubt. I had the doubt because I was presenting completely new information, completely new theory, and I haven't run it by anyone. But I like to take risks occasionally, because again, I don't believe in rehearsed and polished life. I think life is juicy if it happens the way it is. And of course, when I got the feedback, some people did catch that I wasn't sure. Uh, everything doesn't have to be perfect. You still learn. I mean, if you have the consciousness, the curiosity, the kindness towards yourself, it's okay to take a risk. My life is not going to end because of one bad performance, but it did um, God, sometimes I'm so struggling for words.
It's
It
fine.
reinforced the
Let her
idea.
ride.
Yes, it reinforced the idea that you do really need to believe in yourself. Believe, and sometimes if it means that you have to run your content by someone before going on stage and making sure that it does make sense so that you at least have this confidence, then do it. In my case, I didn't do that. I don't mind. I really don't mind. The next speech actually was spectacular, but I believed in myself much more because I knew that the content that I was going with, I knew is going to be strong. And it's really interesting. As I said, I don't get starstruck. And I've been in an industry of personal growth and transformation also for about 20 years. And I've been sitting at the back of the room. I like to watch everything at the back of the room for 20 years, watching almost any big speaker you can imagine in personal growth transformation on stage. And I've learned, so I know exactly what's happening. My brain works very funny. When I see someone, I see it clinically, anatomically. I see it split into pieces, so I understand what's happening. Where I find my strength is my message. Uh, as I said, I don't like the pattern, to follow the pattern. There is such thing as old school teacher, because in the end of the 20th century there were very strict rules about how you could perform on stage, and it's so obvious. But if you're an author and a teacher, your role is not just to entertain. Entertainment is cool, and you can perform well, and people will be listening and hear a lot of funny stories, and they say they've been entertained. I don't care about that. My main goal is to actually help people to accept themselves and to learn to love themselves before they're perfect. And this is the most important thing. And if I don't entertain them, uh, who cares? But I can almost guarantee that you will shed a tear when you listen to me and come out with your world shattered. And that is what I focus on, that I say something that a person needs to hear. So if somebody speaks on stage and they hear and they sound polished and they sound like they've been doing it for 20 years, I'm fine with that. That's not my value. My value is somewhere else. I focus on where my value is, not in comparing myself to other people.
Amazing. Tell me a little bit about how that works, about how, like you can, like hack this presence in order, in order to make yourself almost appear, like larger than life. Because I think sometimes people try to, they tend to idolize. It's like, oh, this person's on stage, they have a platform. This
Mm.
microphone, through the podcast, gives me a platform, right? And what happens is that, I would say it's partially intoxicating, right? And
Yeah.
partially it's like, oh wow, this is really cool, I can really do this, right? And the fact of the matter is, anyone can do this, right? Anyone can get a
Mhm.
microphone, get up there, start their own podcast, and
Mhm.
like, happen, right? How does that look in your world? Like, how does it, when you're helping people get to this, like this next stage of, like getting past, whatever fears they have of public speaking, or of self-doubt, or of career changes, things
Mhm.
like that, how do you help
Mhm.
them hack their way, towards that happiness?
It's not a simple question to answer in in two sentences, because it has so many different aspects. There is the element of believing in yourself or in finding your value, and there's also the element, you ask how to be happy about that, and it is a process, of course. But I guess what is important is that we go beyond the surface. That's why I say that I'm not easily starstruck, because a lot of people who have achieved success, they're still human, very human, almost everybody. And I know almost every single personal growth teacher who's a best-selling author or like a famous TED speaker. Every single one of them is a human being, like really simple human being. Not simple, but I mean like everybody else. We are humans, and it is incredibly important to see beyond that halo of success, halo of authority, halo of certain titles, and see the essence. And that is something which we haven't been taught in contemporary society. We very often get distracted by halo. So, very often, someone with a huge following can say a very basic thing, a pop culture of personal growth. And everybody is applauding because they have a huge following, and it sounds, the halo actually amplifies this message. Whereas somebody with a smaller following may be saying very profound things, saying them very right, and they don't get the same applause. It's because we as a society, we're very used to looking at the superficial. We get starstruck and we stop seeing the reason. So I think my trick is to always focus on the essence of things and not care about the facade. We all love facades. We all put on beautiful facades. And if you start seeing the essence of things, you start seeing world differently. You start, if you find someone who's incredibly accomplished, you will be able to connect with them because you see a human in them and because you're genuinely interested in them and not because you're seeing their halo and you are in awe and you want to say something so memorable that they will, be shattered and remember you forever. That's not how it works. And the same way you start treating yourself. You remember that what it's literally the only thing you can do is focus on what makes you unique, what is your value, and don't compare it to anyone else. Just believe in your value. That's literally the only way to to grow that self-confidence that you have the place on the stage, in front of the microphone, in the boardroom, wherever it is.
You know what's interesting in my trajectory? I mean, I must have reinvented myself maybe like, at least 5 times already in my career, right? And each time it was exhausting. It was also invigorating, but it also, prompted this sort of sort of self discovery of,
Mm.
what I am capable of, right? I tell this story a lot. I was the kid that stuttered in high school. Like, what business do I have being in front of a microphone, right? And it's like, how did and there are things like that carry over, from one life to the next. And what happens is that when you make that decision and you make that affirmation, you make that, okay, this is how it's going to be, this is how I'm going to live my life. What happens is that people have no choice but to accept it, right?
Mm.
Like, once you get out there and show them, like, this is what I'm going to do, and the hell with everyone else, right? This is what happens is that it really helps in terms of getting that word out, right? Or of reinventing like a new persona, like you know
Mm.
uh, whether you get divorced, right? I tell people this all the time. Like, you get divorced, I mean, this is your chance to reinvent yourself. Not everyone gets this, right?
Mm.
Not everyone gets this opportunity, and you have it. And like,
Mm.
what do you do with that? When you see people in that stage, when they're right at the cusp of
Mhm.
being able to make that transformation, what do you think what do you think is the main the main thing they need to hear in order to make that jump over to the other side, and
Mm.
to really be successful with their transformation? How do you help people through that?
Oh God. Well, if I only help people if they actually ask for help. I don't believe in fixing people.
Mhm.
I don't believe in fixing because I think fixing implies that you're broken, and most of us are not broken. A lot of us may be wounded, and healing is a different process. I also don't think that falling down necessarily makes you. mm, it gives you a chance, but it's not necessarily making you better. There is this interesting myth that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's a myth because that's not quite true. What I think is important is that everyone gets experiences in life. We get all sorts of experiences. Experiences in themselves, they are a huge chance for you to change. How you're going to change? Are you going to get out of this experience stronger, better? Or are you going to come out of this experience weaker, more broken, or let's say with thicker skin, less interested, less passionate? It depends on your framework. And it's interesting, as you were saying, you were stuttering, and well, English is my third language, and I was born in Soviet Union. I was a teenager when Soviet Union collapsed. So we all have our stories, we all have experiences, and the question is not about the experiences. The question is about your framework, your mindset. How do you see this world? We like everybody gets to fall down. Everybody gets to fall down. Those who don't fall down, they don't do anything. They're probably just lazy at home and well, static. So everybody gets to fall down. It's not about falling down. That's natural thing. It's about getting up. And that's the very interesting thing because we often talk about the bounce back. We don't talk about what happens when you are down on the ground, when you're getting this painful experience, when you are being divorced, in the process of divorce, right? Before you say, oh, that's my chance to rediscover myself. Or let's say if you're going through bankruptcy, or your partner had broken up with you in business, or you lost your job. We always jump over that as a society. And we don't have a discussion about how do you go through this painful thing, as if the pain in itself is a guarantee that you're going to be better on the other side. No, it's not a guarantee. So I guess what people need to hear is that experiences are okay. It's about what you do with those experiences. And by experiences, I mean falling right now, or failing, or going through a hard time. We all have that. The question is, what do you do with that? And for that, you need you really need the framework, what you believe in, and you need the support system. Who are the people around you to hold your hand, or to hold to hold you back while you are on the ground before you get up? Because gravity works one way. To get up, you need to actually put some effort.
Exactly, exactly. You can't make it happen, like in the other direction. You really do have to apply yourself, and you do have to make that effort, at least to show that you're show that you're interested. And like you said, like you're not just going to go randomly go and fix somebody who needs to be fixed, right? They need to want it. And if they don't want it, then, great. Call me when you want it, right? Because I'm not going to really do anything for you, you know, uh, impulsively. What I am going to do is, if you're open to the experience, I can direct you to this book or this YouTube video or this course, and really help, and
Mhm.
really help you see through it. But, you have to be open to the experience. If you're not, then
Mhm.
all right, call me when you are, right? And, I've seen that so many times already, like in my past relationships, where it's
Mm.
just like, like you think that you know more than the other person. You think that you may have something to offer, but if they're not receptive to it, that's a red flag, right? That is a huge red flag, right?
And who says that you know what's best for them? That's
Of course,
that's a very I know it's a
I'm
philosophical
arrogant, right?
question. Sorry?
I am that arrogant to think that I know what's best for that person, right?
We it's not we all are. I mean, I also like to give advice unsolicited and then asked for, but I think it's just human thing. I'm talking a little bit philosophically about that. Of course, I have children, and sometimes I do think that I know better for what's good for the children. But you see, on the other hand, as I said, I grew up in the Soviet Union, and a lot of the times it is the strict religious dogma, it's the tyrannical, government and the state, or the tyrant as a president, who tells you, I know what's best for you. I've heard that all my childhood. We know what's best for you. Who's there to say? And the thing is that sometimes the experience is what the person needs. So I would actually frame it even a little bit further than, not just when you're ready. I'm here to help you, but I'm here even if you're not ready. I'm here even if you're making a mistake. I'm here even if you are completely wrong. I'm still here for you, and I'll take you back. That's the true help and support that people sometimes need. Not someone to come and tell them, I know what's right for you, but to tell them, even if you make a mistake, I'm still here for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think a lot of people need to hear that, right? And my greatest wish is that, like, someone listening to this conversation, even if it's just one person, goes and takes away like, okay, great, this is what I needed to hear today. Thank you so much for that. Uh, Christina, can you please let everyone know where they can find you online and how they can reach out to you directly if they'd like to learn
Mm.
more?
So, as a co-founder of Mindvalley, I would say you will always find me on Mindvalley, but I do have my own presence online. It's KristinaMänd.com, and I have just finished my book. It's going to be launched next year, so that's probably my preferred way of you getting to know me, because I think I've put a lot of heart into it. And I'm also on Instagram, Kristina Mänd. That's where I'm um, directly personally present most frequently.
Amazing stuff. To Christina, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a lot of fun. And I love talking about this stuff. I love being able to talk to people about the things that they need to hear, how they need to do it, and just sort of think of new ways of how they can achieve what it is they set out to do. So I really appreciate everything that you do. And I'm just very honored that you were here to speak with me today. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for